Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dear Workwives. I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Emily. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. How's it going?
It's going good. I just realized I forgot my water. So when you take a sip, I can't take a sip.
Oh, but at least you also can't choke yourself like you
Choke
did
myself.
yesterday.
Oh my gosh. It was the worst. I was like, when you choke on water and it's like burning your throat, it was like that for like 10 minutes. And you and I have talked off recordings about how I'm a child when it comes to water. And I prefer to be able to put a little, my kids call it taste,
Flavor?
like a little flavor in it.
Yeah.
And there's a store here that sells like things from the States, like a candy store that sells like British, but a lot of American stuff. And they have the pink
Like
Starburst water.
contraband.
Yeah, like things that we just don't get here. Like if to specially import it and then it costs 10 times more. But
Yeah.
they have the
Okay.
pink Starburst water flavor. And I use like a third of a packet in each of my water bottles because I just like the little, essence of
Juggy.
it. It's so good.
So
And
it's just
that
like
water is sitting
sugar.
upstairs waiting for me. So it tastes like sugar. Yeah, it tastes like sugar water.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, sugar water.
And it's
Like
good.
what a hummingbird would like.
Much.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's fine. You know what? It
I
works. It
didn't
gets
know
me to
that
drink water.
Yeah, I didn't even know that Starburst had like water flavors.
Oh my gosh. Starburst, Skittles, Mike and
Really?
Ike, all of the Crush, all of these companies have water additive things.
Okay. Oh, even though I'm in the States, I haven't seen those.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't been looking.
Right. And they're designed like the only ones we can get for the Starburst are like individual packets. And they're designed that you put this packet in like a regular bottle of
So
water.
it would be like way overpowering.
And I put a third of a packet in my like
Larger.
huge water bottle. I could not even imagine. It would be like drinking syrup. I'm convinced. But anyway,
America. You
yeah,
love that.
you do love that. But I mean, I do
You
too. So I'm not really one to judge. But
do.
anyway, so that's what's going on with me is I forgot my water and it has the
Okay.
Starburst flavor in it.
Well,
So
something to look forward to.
yeah, after this when I'm parched.
Yeah.
What else is
I mean,
going
we
on
could
though?
pause if you really need it, but
No, it's okay. I'll be fine.
you've
Because you're
survived.
right. I probably would choke. So
She choked at a team meeting the other day. She couldn't get it together for quite a
no,
while.
it
So
was rough.
like this is why I
Uh
don't drink water.
Yeah, because it's danger to my health. Nothing else is going on. My kids are on their second last day of school. Tomorrow's
Yay.
their last day for the summer. Can't wait. Can't wait. They got their report cards yesterday and they did so well. So we're all feeling very proud. We celebrated. Oh my gosh, I'm such a child when I talk about this, but we went for McFlurries after school. Actually, they were supposed to have soccer, but it got canceled because our air quality right now is
Terrible again.
horrific because of
Yeah.
wildfires.
The same wildfires or new ones?
Same ones. Yeah, just keep
Okay.
burning. It might be
Okay.
like a new crop of fire, but it's like the same, like, you know what I mean? It's never really gone out.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so soccer was canceled, but it's like, well, we're still going to get McFlurries. And I don't know if McDonald's in the States has this, but like right now, McDonald's Canada has this summer McFlurry flavor and it's caramel popcorn. So it has literal caramel popcorn in it. And I had to try it because it sounded like it was either going to be incredible or horrific.
Terrible. Yeah.
And it's actually really good. So just here to say that it's just like sweet and salty,
Just as like there's like chunks of popcorn in it.
like whole caramel corn popcorns in it.
And
I
are they
know,
like
I know.
crunchy still or they get soggy?
No,
Because this is my concern.
they stayed crunchy because they're like thoroughly coated in caramel. So I don't know if they got like,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's not like a little bit. It's like the whole kernel has like a good
Right.
coating,
Yeah.
which I think like slowly
Protected.
dissolves in the ice cream. But like at the bottom of my McFlurry, I only get like the little one, but it was still crunchy popcorn.
Interesting.
It was
Yeah, it's definitely
interesting.
not something I would be like personally interested in.
No, but
Since you said the flavor is good, I also am like lactose intolerant, so I probably
right.
shouldn't anyways, but
I was going to ask you this, like, how often do you eat ice cream? Because but you don't because you're lactose intolerant.
never.
We are in like the most intense ice cream season of our lives. I don't think we have gone more than 3 days without having ice cream in the past like month. And I'm not mad about it, to be honest, but I don't know what it is, but I just can't get enough right now.
Interesting.
But you don't really do ice cream because you're lactose intolerant.
Lactose intolerant. So like sometimes if I'm like really craving something or if I see something at the grocery store that has like non-dairy,
Yeah.
then I'll get it. but it usually doesn't like scratch
Doesn't live
the
up to the
itch
hype. Yeah.
anyways. Like I bought some, so you know that brand like So Delicious or
Yes.
whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like coconut or I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, but I had, and it was like cookie dough, which is normally my favorite type of ice cream, and I had some, and
Womp
just
womp.
the
Even
rest
when we've
is
been
I
together
gave
and
the
you
rest to
say,
Tyler because I'm like, no.
I know. And then we'll go out the few times. Like I remember when you came to Toronto or when we were at Disney Springs and you're like, yeah, I'm going to get, and then you just last minute don't get anything.
No, remember when we went to Disney Springs, they had the one vegan flavor that I wanted. And then when I got up to the counter, it was gone. Like it was like sold
Oh,
out.
that's
I was
right.
gonna get it,
You were,
but I'm not
I'm
gonna
sorry.
get
I
the
stand corrected.
regular. I was not
Yeah.
gonna get the
Or
regular
the
because that will just
sorbet.
it will destroy me. And I'm not like a sorbet kind of person. Like
You're
I
like
just
a
don't want
chocolatey
them.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like a, vanilla or chocolate,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
cookie dough, like that type of sweet
Yeah.
versus I don't really like fruity
You just
sorbet
eat
is
the
not,
fruit.
yeah,
You
like
just,
it doesn't do it for me.
yeah.
But I wanted that one at Disney Springs and it just wasn't in the cards.
Maybe you can
But
get it in July.
maybe big news. We did tell Kit yesterday that we were taking her to Disney.
How did that go?
Could have been, I don't know,
Oh, you've
maybe
only
it's
got a few
been,
weeks. It's fine.
she was so excited. It was the cutest thing. She was just like,
Oh, I love
oh
that.
God, we're going to Disney. And last night I was putting her to bed and she was telling me all the things that she wants to do, who she wants to meet. Like,
Perfect. It's good because now you can get her itinerary,
I know that was actually because a few weeks ago, like when I was just like asking her hypothetically, like which princess she would like to meet, it was like very much like Belle
Yeah.
and the Beast. But then last night when I told her we were going, she was like, Rapunzel, number one, Rapunzel. I
Right.
was like, okay, let's do it. So
Mhm.
now I got to like go in the mom's group and figure out where do I meet Rapunzel? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you're right. I can do my due diligence for my
Yes.
planning.
Yeah. Because you're gonna have one shot at Magic
Uh,
Kingdom to find Rapunzel.
exactly. So I don't
Yeah.
want to let her down. She still wants to meet Belle, but she was very upset about the idea of meeting the Beast. I don't want to see the Beast. I don't want to see the Beast.
Okay. So
Mommy,
you're not
please
even
don't
don't
make
even
me
see
see
the
the
show
Beast.
anymore. Yeah.
I don't know because
Yeah.
I think she would want like that might
It's
be a
also just the movie.
game time decision,
Right.
like if we go to the show. I was thinking we would go to the show and like see him from far away. Maybe she'd be
Yeah.
okay
Belle
with
will be
mommy and
there.
daddy. Belle will be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the big kicker that she really wants, well, she wanted to bring one of her stuffies. And I was like, okay, you can bring a stuffy. I said, but we won't have enough. And she's like, and you bring this stuffy and you bring this other, like she wants to bring all her stuffies. I was like, no, we probably only will have enough hands for one stuffy because mom also has to bring water,
Yeah.
snacks, fans. I got to bring
Yeah.
all the stuff. And I was like, and you might want to buy one thing there, right? Like you might want to get a surprise. She was like, oh yeah. So she quickly
Gave it up.
like, stuffy doesn't have to come because I want
a new stuffy.
They have a store there. And I was like, yeah, they have a store there at Disney
wait
World.
until you see the whole place is a store. Yeah.
One big store, basically.
Yeah.
So you could maybe get one thing from the store. She was like, okay, I know what I want. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
What do you want? I want real ice cream.
Shut up. Oh my God.
Like, mommy, I've never ever had real ice cream.
Because she's lactose intolerant too, right?
Lactose intolerant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, okay, babe, if you want real ice cream, like maybe you can have real ice cream at Disney World. If that's like your one Disney wish, we'll have it at the end of the day and then you can blow it out later. I don't know.
But if you go to, there might be like the vegan ice cream at some of the places. You might get
maybe
lucky.
I can ask in the Disney moms group about that too. Where can I get this child some ice cream where she thinks it's real ice cream,
Oh my gosh.
Because even at school, like sometimes they have ice cream, but she has like special ice cream that we brought for her so that.
Right.
I was like, if I can get away with just getting her ice cream as her prize, golden.
Listen, I'm going to have words with you if you come back and she does not have a new tangible thing. Okay.
A new $40 bubble wand or something.
I think that you should take her.
I think the bubble wand is even more expensive. I'm pretty sure Tyler spent $35 on a balloon.
Yeah. Which like, she couldn't even take to Animal Kingdom the next day. So
yeah. He's like, I hope she doesn't remember the balloon. I'm like, it doesn't matter. As soon as she sees it, she's going to want another one.
Yeah. You should take her to where the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is or Caribbean, whatever. That's where the tiaras are.
The tiaras.
Because if she's a princess, she might want a tiara.
She definitely will want a tiara. I was gonna try to like buy some stuff cheaper before I get there and then like pull it out and be like, oh, look, mommy got you a surprise. And like she won't know that it's not actually, you know, there. $70 ears from Disney, but rather $2 ears from AliExpress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Smart. Listen.
So that's what's going on in our world. And she was like, mommy, how many days until we go? How much time until we go? And I was like, well, we'll be there you mean like, how long are we going to be there? She's like, no, how long until we go? And I was like, 2 weeks till we go. And she was like, she was so excited.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
So that was,
I'm going to get targeted for more ads now that we've talked about this for the last 5 minutes.
And everyone listening, I'm sorry, but this is my only summer only thing to look forward to. So here I am.
Right. Okay. But, well, that sounds like I'm super jealous. All I can picture now is like, because you're going and then my nieces are going in the fall. And I'm just like, James, we need to go. We need to make this work somehow.
Magical.
Yeah. Next week is July 4th, or I guess as this episode airs, it will be July 4th. So
happy July 4th, everyone.
There's that. Canada Day will have just passed.
Happy Canada Day.
It's July 1st, Canada Day.
Well, happy Canada Day in the past.
And we're recording this on June 28th, and it's Pride Month is almost over. So I hope in where I live, our Pride Parade is in July. So we're going to be going to that. Which I'm really looking forward to.
Weekend, but we didn't brave it with the children. They're a little older. I think we will.
Yeah. Ours is like very much tame. It's not like the big city pride parades, which I would love to go to as well when they're a bit older.
Yeah, ours is I think pretty big and wild, but
yeah,
they have a lot of kids stuff too. I think it's just so hot, and with the 2 kids, I was like, with crowds and kids. But a lot of our friends did go, and I heard it was amazing. But,
yes, I keep seeing all these videos of the Disneyland Pride Parade or Pride Night. And it looks so cool. And like all of the characters, like Mirabelle, who I didn't know who Mirabelle was, but I think that's Goofy's partner. She's just like giving everything. So
she's like a cow kind of looking.
Yeah. And Daisy's doing the most, and Minnie's got like this great outfit. And I was like, oh, that would be so cool. But
I want to see.
I'll send you a
TikTok. Are you on the TikTok?
Yeah, I'll send you a TikTok. Yeah.
Are you on the Disney Pride TikTok?
Yeah. So I hope everyone who celebrates it had a great Pride Month.
Yep. We'll continue celebrating your love all year long.
Yep. And now we're going to talk about our stories this week, but we have a little bit different. We have different things.
Tell us the twist.
So you know what? We're nothing if not innovative.
That's right.
Can't even say that with a straight face. Creative. Yes. So today I found a really interesting article that we're going to talk about from CNBC. I will put the article link in the show notes for those who want to read it. And then Adrian and I are each going to share a story from our past, and the other person can give advice, or we can, self-advise on how we would handle that today with, the confidence and knowledge that we have now versus when we had then.
Juicy.
So I'm excited because I have a good story, and I hope that I'm eager to hear your take on it. But before we dive in, I did want to talk about this news story that was from CNBC. And the headline is that most employees say their well-being has worsened or stayed the same, but their bosses disagree. So Deloitte and Workplace Intelligence put out a survey. They surveyed 3,150 people this March. And inside of the survey results, it showed that 84% of people are still focused on improving their mental health. 75% of those people say that's more important than advancing their career. So their health is more important than their career. Shocking. But still only 75% of people. There are still people out there who half of people surveyed constantly or always or often feel exhausted or stressed, which is a lot of people. And the kind of interesting part, the whole article is really interesting because it talks about how burnout, there's no reprieve from burnout culture. There's no way to kind of escape it. It's still prevalent, even though it's not getting the hype that it was I think during the height of the
Ariana,
pandemic.
or even like, remember when, what's her name from Ariana Huffington?
Oh yeah.
I feel like there was a big burnout conversation around that time when her book came out and all that
Yes.
too.
Yeah. But only 42% of the managers surveyed in this say that they feel empowered and capable of helping their team members like achieve their well-being goals. And I think that that was the part that I really wanted to focus on when we were talking about it, is because like, yes, we know that the work culture is struggling for a lot of people right now. Like we know that burnout rates are still incredibly high. People are leaving jobs left, right, and center. Gen Z is like completely changed. There's another article I read about how Gen Z is like completely changing the work culture, and that they have like a bunch of side hustles and they're little entrepreneurs, and they just like refuse to give in to like corporate, status quo. But if less than half of managers are feeling equipped to handle these well-being, this kind of like crisis of the workforce, like how are we ever going to make any change? That's kind of the part that really
like
stuck out to
they're
me.
not empowered by their companies to do anything about it.
Yeah, like they know, or the bosses are just ignoring the data or ignoring their team members. They're about how they're genuinely feeling, and they're not willing to provide any resources to make changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are like, they're playing with the 4-day work week, or like they're really trying to put sharper boundaries around communication and that kind of thing. But like, as much as some companies are doing that, other companies are doing the exact opposite by
making
forcing people back to
into
the office, which is the big one right now.
Which is like, to me, it's just the easiest and like also best cost savings opportunity for organizations. Like the amount of money that organizations are spending on like office space and electricity and just parking, like all the stuff you have to pay to run an office, when it's literally the exact opposite of what people want. We've had a proven model where they don't actually need to be there. Like it was like this proven experiment with COVID that we got, and this is a byproduct of it, yet we're choosing to do the exact opposite. And it's really detrimental, I think, to people's well-being, their workplace their mental state, how they feel about their workplace, because it just shows that their workplace does not care about them. I found the most interesting part of the article was the companies and managers basically gaslighting in the first sentence of like, we don't think there's a problem, even though they say there's a problem.
Right.
Like what?
Yeah. Like they're just like,
first line again. Hold on, let me open it. I was just like,
a new report highlights that leaders do not have a firm grasp of their employees' well-beings. The C-suite has indicated a much different perspective. More than 3 out of 4 executives inaccurately believe that their workforce's well-being has improved.
Yeah, it's just like the article title. It's like, most employees say their well-being has worsened or say the same, but their bosses disagree.
How can you disagree about someone telling you? I mean, this is not like a difference of opinion. As a leader, you do not get to decide
how someone feels.
I'm feeling.
It's also like, and the title might be a little clickbaity, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously like their perception.
Right.
And they didn't have this data when they gave their perception, but their perception is wrong, is what this article is saying.
Right.
So that's something that hopefully these, Deloitte and Workplace Intelligence will go back to them and be like, actually wrong. Like there's a big problem here. And like small, like really random factoid, when I was reading the article, Dan Schwabel, who is, I guess, the CEO of Workplace Intelligence, like 6 or 7 years ago, I actually met him at like a dinner. I was sat next to him. One of my first mentors, like when I first started my entrepreneurial endeavors, was Farnoosh Torabi. And she had like a podcast, and she's very well known in the finance space. And so she knew Dan, and I was with her like at a dinner, and Dan was sitting next to me, and he was writing his book at the time. I wonder if I even had his book. But it was just so random that you sent me that article. I was like, Dan Schwabel, oh my God. Like I knew he wanted to like be doing workplace research. So it's really cool that he obviously has a company now that is legitimate and does a ton of studies
Yeah.
on this type of stuff, but I was like, oh, blast from the past.
There you go.
We're not like friends or anything, but we did meet, and
But if you hear
I
this,
remember
Jen,
him. Yeah, but if you hear us, you know, we're out
we
here
can be
fighting for you
friends.
too. Yeah, we would
Yeah.
love to partner with you and hear what you're doing, and maybe even have you on the podcast, because he is definitely like very much like an advocate for better workplace culture, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I think I know this is out of the usual format for us, but I think as a leader of a company, how, like, do you feel like it's possible to be that disconnected from the reality of your employees?
Yes, because I think that we're looking at larger companies that
Right,
they're
corporation.
serving,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like I think that they're serving much larger organizations. And I also think that like when you're in larger organizations, there's this pressure to perform, like there's this pressure to not admit or
There's no problems here. Yeah.
there's no vulnerability, there's
Yeah.
no like bringing your personal sometimes like into the workplace. It's just like put on a face, do the work, whatever.
Mhm.
And everyone just head down, laser focused, can't be bothered with like what's going on for other people. And so I think it would be possible, especially for higher level leadership, to have no clue,
Yeah.
or at least be unwilling to admit that there was a problem, because they might also think that they're like doing some really advanced initiatives
Right.
that no one really wants, but they think
Yeah.
it's like, you know, giving them, they're checking the box at least of like mental
Yeah.
well-being. Oh, we have access to a gym, so they should be
We
feeling all
have bouncy
better.
balls.
Yeah, that they can sit on, you know,
Yeah.
like we provide a kitchen, or, you know, like, or
Yeah.
whatever. They think they're doing something that checks the box. And I don't think that a lot of corporate cultures have the environment where they get to have a lot of maybe one-on-ones with the people that are actually doing the work. I think that, you know, leadership is meeting with leadership. And it also sounds like there's a lot of middle managers who
Yeah.
don't feel they have the like the opportunity to make any changes. They don't feel they have the permission. They don't feel they have the resources. So they're kind of trapped in this middle ground of where maybe they do know
They
that,
know, but they can't do anything.
yeah, like they know, but they also don't have enough pull to
Yeah.
make a big change, or they feel like that might jeopardize them or their career. It might be seen as like complaining, like,
Mhm.
you know. And I think that there's still in some corporations just that culture of like, just shut
Yeah.
up and do your work, and you're replaceable, so don't make too much noise,
Right.
unfortunately, you know.
Yeah.
So I do think it's possible that they are that disconnected, which is unfortunate, but yeah, I think it's possible. Not
Yeah,
at a small company like mine, no.
Yeah. But as, obviously we have listeners who work at small companies and, even ones that are slightly bigger than ours, but still the managers or leaders have greater access to it. Like it must still be challenging when that you're doing everything you can to support your employees and keep a business running, and you still have employees who are
Yeah, I was actually just
struggling.
going to change my opinion. Like,
okay.
I changed my mind.
Drama. Here we go.
So I think it would be possible even at a small organization to not have as much insight, just because I think it depends on the openness and the safety of the culture, right? Like, because if I was a leader who was not creating a safe space, then why would they tell me that like they're struggling, or they're not in a good space, or they need more time off? Or like, I think that there definitely are instances in small businesses where even leadership at a, under 20 team members, they don't know, because they're not, and that is not necessarily the team members' fault. It's the product of the leadership, like not creating a safe enough space where people feel they could come to you and tell you that. So it is your fault ultimately, or it's your choosing to like be disconnected and be preoccupied with other things that maybe that's not a priority for you. Like maybe you haven't prioritized like one-on-ones with your team members, or like getting to know them on a personal level, or giving them the space to share, like, are you over capacity? Like most people aren't asking that, I would say. I think that the things that we do at Run Like Clockwork that help me understand if someone is, in a good mental state or not are not necessarily practiced or common even in small businesses. I think it takes a lot of effort. And even when I know that I'm doing a lot of things maybe differently to try to make it
optimal,
like it still isn't always going to be. And so then I think it could be frustrating for CEOs or managers of like throwing up your hands and being like, well, I'm doing everything I can. Like, what else can I do? And at some point there
you
is
still have to
also
work.
like we still need to get work done. And I'm a small business, so maybe I can't afford to do all these things that you might feel you need in order to be working at optimal mental health. But I think that's also like a moving target for some people, and
Totally.
I think also it depends on what's going on in your personal life. These things are very interdependent, and I don't think we can ignore that, but I think that we can continue to try to do better, and not gaslight our team into like, no, you're fine. Like they must be fine because I'm doing all these things.
Yeah.
I think not assuming that they're fine, even though you're doing all these things, is the key for me too. Like, just because I'm doing all these things, like I still need to check in. I still need to make sure they're okay. I still need to have conversations of what could we continue to do better, knowing that I may not always be able to provide that. Right. And, but I think that's a conversation that we can have.
And sometimes like there really isn't anything, oftentimes there isn't really anything more you can do. It's if when it comes to, these employee like mental health, like there truly is like only so much you can do. And if we're also talking about equitable practices, we need to make sure that we are creating these opportunities like equitably. And so what someone needs might be different than what someone else needs. And one of those might not be possible for the business. So you have to,
or they might contradict each other. Like what one person needs might be the opposite of what the other person needs. And I think that the other thing that comes up for me, which is really selfish, but it's like, I'm sure there's also a lot of CEOs out there who are like, who's helping my mental health? Like, like
literally,
for a small business, at least, I think that there's a lot of pressure to support their team and like, make sure your team's okay. But like,
there's a lot of like, well, this is what comes with having a business, like this is
checking in on me.
That's part of owning a business. It's like, okay, but also like part of being a team member is doing your work.
Yeah, that's right.
And I know that sounds really callous and I don't mean it to, but I think this is why the conversation is so nuanced, because it's a moving target. It's very gray and you want to do the absolute best that you can to support your team. But that also includes keeping your company running so they can keep making money.
Right.
So sometimes what you need to do to continue the company operating is going to contradict what your team member needs to like be at their optimal health,
Yeah.
Like, we could all do with a 4-week vacation taken at the same time. So there's nothing happening at Run Like Clockwork, but then there's no Run Like Clockwork. So,
right. So that's not going to keep us in business and keep you with a job, right? That pays you, because then I can't do that. So, and we know that like suicide rates, mental health, rates for entrepreneurs is like
very high,
very high. So I think that sometimes maybe people don't even have the capacity to think about other people because they're just like struggling themselves. So, what was that quote about like when you're drowning in, whether you're drowning in like 5 feet of water or you're drowning in 20 feet of water, like you're still drowning.
You're still drowning. Yeah.
It's not like a competition of like who's drowning the most.
Who is drowning under the most water? It's like, it doesn't matter.
Literally does not matter if you're in 10 feet of water and this other person's in 20 feet of water. Like we're both still drowning. And so, I don't have an answer. I just think that there's like a lot more to the picture, in terms of solving, like I don't know how to solve this problem for people because
there is no one size fits all solution.
And I think this is also a product of our system right now, like the system that is our government, that is our financial system.
Yeah.
In a recession, in a, inflation economy right now, the companies are, having to lay people off, which means that other people now have to do more work. But in order to stay in business, that's all we can afford. So it's like, and I can't afford to pay you more right now because we're not making more money. Because they just
laid off half the company. Yeah.
So it's like, I think that there's just so many sides of this challenge right now that like maybe people are doing their best, but maybe they're not. I think that there's a lot of large corporations that are not doing their best.
Yes. Yeah. I
know?
don't generally think that they are usually.
Yeah.
I'm more thinking like small business, medium-sized business. Like there are things that you can do to like, I think the first step is just acknowledging, even having those conversations of like, yeah, I would like profits aren't there. So we can't offer that. You know what I mean? Like if you're being more transparent with things, then I think it's an easier pill to swallow, or at least people feel like they're making informed decisions if they choose to stay or leave a situation that's not, you know what I mean, working out for them. But again, that takes a lot of vulnerability, and it's not the norm. So
like
a lot of people don't do it.
In my like my local friend group, and she was like, you know, oh, like with cost of living and inflation and all of that, like I should be making like 20%. I'm going to ask for like a 20%. I need like a 20% increase. And I'm like,
it's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Like they can't do it, you know, like she doesn't work for this huge company. And I'm so unfair that they're not giving this to me. And I'm like, I mean, I see your side, but I also see their side. Like I get, like, it's not fair to anyone, but if they did that, they'd have to do that for everyone. And they would literally go out of business. And then where would you be? You know, like then you'd have 100% pay cut.
100%.
80% of what you're wanting.
Yeah.
And some of our friends were like, maybe you could look for a new job. And it's like, it's right. You could look for a new job. And a lot of times that's the best way to get a large pay increase is to switch companies, move to a different organization. But that also takes a lot of work, a lot of effort.
And is a huge financial risk. Are you willing
to do that? Like, are you willing to do that right now? Right. But that is one of your options, you know? Because a lot of times the company does not have the option to just give everyone an 11%, a 7%, a 20% blanket increase. They would put themselves out of business. It's not financially responsible, even though we understand the rationale of like what the economy is like right now, and that every single person is feeling the cost of the inflation. Yeah. It's like, I get it. And I want to stay in business too, you know. I
want to be around in a year, in 2 years, when
hopefully
things have settled out a bit, you know, but we're not going to make it there if we aren't fiscally conservative right now.
And I know that this article wasn't even just talking about fiscal, like pay increases and stuff like that. So I think it's interesting, you know, I think that there's probably a lot more that people could do just by asking, you know, like, what's your capacity like? I think is the first question before just like piling on. I think that that's a common thing that people do. I think that also in the position of being an employee, like where can you stretch your no muscle, right? Like, because I know that and especially if you're, you know, if you're part of that 75% of people that care more about your mental health and your well-being than you do about your career advancements, then say no to things that like really are not going to put you in a place where you can do your best or feel your best, right? That's not something I can take on right now. And I think that sometimes we just assume we have to, but yeah, sure. It might affect your career advancements, but it sounds like for the most part, like that's actually not people's primary concern. So
yeah. And like on the flip side, I know people are like, oh, you know, companies always treat us like we're replaceable. But if people aren't leaving jobs to look for wage increases, then maybe they're not going to be so happy with the salary that this company is offering. So like the relationship is not as clear cut as it used to be because the workforce is very volatile right now. So. And Gen Z's coming in and shaking it all up as they do.
That's right.
Those Gen Zers. Love them.
Love them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll put the article in the show notes if you want to read it. We did pretty much just recap it, but it's a good article. So
interesting.
And then let us know if you're a leader or an employee, like what's something that you could do or wish you had done or want to do, but are too scared to kind of like improve your well-being or the well-being of your team,
or like, do you even know what would improve the well-being of your team? I think that's also like are they asking like, what do do the employees know what they want? Like, do they know what would help them feel better? Sometimes no, sometimes they just know they don't feel good. They don't have like a realistic solution, but maybe some of them do. So maybe even just asking your team.
You sound like my husband right now. Well, what will make you feel better? A McFlurry, but it doesn't. Doesn't work. Just for like a minute. Okay. I wanted each of us to share a story from our past because we started out this podcast where we each shared one. And I was like, I know that we both have more. So let's do that. I have a story queued and ready that I would love your opinion on.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a previous role, it was Black Friday, like happening, and the leader and I had a misunderstanding. We kind of had our wires crossed about a promotion and kind of the specifics of a promotion. When we were discussing it in the office, they thought that I was giving them a lot of attitude and like reprimanded me like very like as if I was a child, like in the middle of the office in front of all the other employees.
Oh.
And I got up and like walked out to go to the washroom and just kind of like collect myself because as you know, as a current leader of mine,
Yes.
like I sometimes need to collect myself. Like I cry very easily. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm frustrated. Like sometimes I just need to like go take a breath so that I don't flip my shit.
Yeah.
And then the leader followed me into the hallway and cornered me and continued yelling at me.
No.
Like with their body, like physically cornered me, like so I couldn't move. And yelled at me more in the hallway about how unprofessional and disrespectful it was for me to get up and walk out of the conversation.
What about how unprofessional it is for you to be yelling at me in front of everyone, but also to be following me and then cornering me and making me not feel safe in my body?
Yeah,
how unprofessional is that?
It was honestly like one of the worst, and like it was one of the worst experiences in the world.
I would probably try to calmly communicate that I need them to step away and stop talking to me right now.
Yeah.
Just, like sometimes when someone's acting crazy, like the best thing you can do is like be really calm so that it will show
like the difference
of like, because if the immediate reaction is to like yell back or like, but that just like matches versus like, oh, I'm the one who's like clearly
escalated
making a scene and escalating this. Yes. And so I would probably be like, you're not making me feel safe right now. Like, I don't feel safe in my body right now. And this is like easier said than done. Like, say that to someone too. Like, I need a moment to step away and then we can talk about this later. And then I would probably never talk to them without another party being present because it doesn't sound like they were a safe person or a logical, rational person. So I'd probably immediately like bring in HR or other management, be like, to tell them what went on. And was this person your boss? This was your boss? Yeah. I don't know how I'd keep working with them either. So I'd probably have to like look for a new job.
It was like such a cluster of like, because the promotion wasn't going well. So we were already like flustered, when you're doing something like a Black Friday deal and it's like not hitting targets and you start to scramble. So the energy starts to get like, well, how do we fix this? Or how do we, and I remember just like standing in the hallway being like, I'm literally just trying to go to the bathroom so that I can take a breath, like I'm trying to diffuse the situation, and instead of react. And like, I felt like I was being like hunted for a reaction. And then this incident came up in my annual review as like one of 2 times that I was insubordinate.
What did you do? What did you do after this happened? I
cried and went back to work because the power dynamic was like, what was I going to do? Like this, like I've never been in a position to just walk out of a job,
Right. Yeah.
And I genuinely was just made to feel like I really messed up. So then I just, because of my personality, I have to make this better,
Yeah.
I have to be better.
This is my fault.
Yeah.
Even if like the thing was your fault, which we don't even know like what the thing, what doesn't really even matter. It's relevant because the problem is the reaction and how you were treated, but obviously with the power dynamic, sometimes we don't realize what is fair, what is not fair, like how we should be treated. So we just kind of tuck our tail between our legs and keep going,
Yeah.
That makes me feel sad for younger Emily.
And I worked with like all the other people in the office were like we were all my age. So it just was like the most, and like all in similar stages of life, like all like just getting married or just having our first kid. Like it was all very like, these were like my peers, So it was just like the most embarrassing exchange of my life, you know, because one thing to be like yelled at or reprimanded by someone who's like, you know, like when I was in the kitchens, it's like I was like 18 and these were like 50, 60-year-old like professional chefs who have been doing this for their whole, it just like the dynamics are different, right? But this was like someone who was not that much older than me who like just felt like someone who I should be like having a glass of wine with and instead is like screaming in my face. And it was like so embarrassing.
Yeah. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
I've never had anything that psycho happen to me. My story is like way tamer than yours.
Okay. Well, I think I think you're right. Like ideally you just be like, I can't work in this environment. And like we've always say, like start getting your exit plan in a row. Like start putting the feelers out, update your resume. You know, it takes time sometimes to find like comparable salaries or positions or compensation packages. But like if something like that happens, like that's not
But
a
also
one-off.
there was also like witnesses to your incident too,
Yeah.
which, you know, could have been used in your favor at that time. So like if this ever happens to someone, like go to HR or to management if you don't have, you know, a whole HR department or whatever, and make sure that it's
documented
and that, because maybe that person would have got fired and maybe you wouldn't have had to leave your job, you know, because what they did was really inappropriate. But yeah, you didn't know at the time. So
this person owned the company, so like they weren't gonna get fired. But
yeah. So then it is like you gotta decide, is that the type of person you want to work for?
Yeah.
Probably not, you know? And that is, yeah, it's not cool. So when there's not like an HR or a manager that feels safe, then I feel like, yeah, you got to start putting the things in place.
That's a huge red flag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your story?
Oh yeah. Okay. So mine, I'm sharing the story as like someone who would need advice, right? So, so I was, and I probably have shared this story before. I feel like I don't have that many like fun,
yeah,
toxic workplace stories, which is good, but the whole place was toxic. But so this particular instance, I was new to the organization. This is when I worked in my corporate job, and we worked at a paper mills. And so everything was open, like the paper mills run like 24/7, 365. It costs a lot of money to like shut down a paper machine.
Yeah.
So they just don't. And so holidays and stuff like that, like they're still running. They just have different crews that come in. Those people get paid overtime. I was salaried at the time. So like, I don't get paid overtime or anything for holidays, but it's just kind of like, we have to like rotate and do that, or someone has to come in and at least check on it, even if you're not like working a full day or whatever. So this particular instance, I was young, just started kind of working there. I was mid-20s or early 20s. And we were like, my boss was in my office and we were just talking about the upcoming holiday schedule. And he was like, well, and he was like in his 40s, mid 40s, 50s. He had a family who were like, he had 2 kids who were maybe in their teens and stuff. It was like, well, you know, since you don't have a family or anything, like that you could come in on Christmas and Christmas Eve, since you won't be doing anything.
Womp womp.
I was like, oh, okay. Like, and I just said, oh, okay. And then I did. Yeah. And I did come in, and I never told anyone about that comment. But like, as an older person now, I'm like, that was so inappropriate and rude and offensive. And obviously it still sticks with me as something that should not be said.
No, because everyone has a family just because they don't have offspring.
Yeah. And I was like, actually, like, you're right. I don't have a family. So maybe they also like relocated us for jobs a lot of times. And so we were kind of isolated. Like we didn't have people that we knew in these towns. Like I literally moved there and knew nobody in this town. So maybe it would have been nice to have a couple extra days off to like go travel to see my family or something over the holidays, or even just a couple days. So I lived within driving distance of my aunt and uncle at the time. So like I could have driven to go see them if I, But
I
like you're
know.
saying, no, since I
You were
don't have
voluntold.
children, I was
Yeah.
basically told I don't have a family. And so I should be the one to,
Yeah.
just
Suck it
show
up.
up to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should
And
show
also
up
like
on my
what if
holiday
you
off.
yeah, like what if you're like a religious person or something like that day, you know what I mean? Or
Right. Like the assumption was
just like, oh, you have nothing going on. So
yeah. So
yeah.
you'll be here.
I hate that assumption. I think it's like so unfair. And like, I mean, obviously I have young children, but I don't think that warrants me to have any higher priority than any other person to have certain time
And he
off.
was also like the manager at our like location,
Right.
like the highest level manager at our location. So honestly, like as a leader now, I'm like, I would take one for the team for my,
Yeah.
I would be
Or like
like,
do a lottery or something like do it like
or
a
at least like,
draw.
if no one else can come in, I'll come in as like the
Yeah.
leader, you know what I mean? But like, and then maybe I would have volunteered myself. I probably would have volunteered myself anyways.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was just like,
You were
you don't
doing
have a
this.
family. So
Yeah.
like, you can do this.
Brutal. Well, luckily we don't have that problem anymore because we just closed for 2 weeks.
That's right.
Don't have to worry about that.
That's right.
But I hate when people make that assumption or like infer that or
What would you have done like if you were
I would have done
like,
exactly what you did.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Okay.
Like perfect me would love
someone
someone should
having a
not
stroke?
just take it. They should say, there has to be a more equitable way of determining, is there a rotation? Is there anyone who actually wants to volunteer? There are lots of people who will volunteer to do it,
or maybe I should have even just spoken up and said like, oh, I would be happy to volunteer.
Yeah.
But it's not because I don't have a family.
Yeah. Even just like stick up
or
for
like
yourself that way.
Or like what do you mean? I don't get it.
I don't get it. I do have a family.
What does that have to do with my holiday?
Yeah. About my holiday. Yeah. Or I would have been like, okay, and then I'll take blah, blah, blah time in lieu. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I don't know. People are wild with their assumptions and they're self-serving and you know what I mean? They're like, oh, I don't want to work this day, so I'm going to make sure that you do instead.
Yeah.
But
that company was wild for like a lot of like family dynamic stuff because when Tyler and I started dating, we were like long distance. And
were you allowed to date or was it against HR? Did you have to like sign a thing? And
we didn't have to sign anything, but once we were like serious, we did like tell our managers and mentors so that like people knew it was not like against HR because we were horizontal, like we were not managing each other or anything. But it was very commonplace when there was couples in the company for them to, like I said, they relocated a lot of people a lot of times for different positions or to advance their careers. And it was not uncommon for them to split couples up when they're relocating, like married couples, even married couples with children, like they would relocate like the spouse to another state, and that was just like okay with these families. And that was something very early on in like our relationship that Tyler and I were like, never would we be like accepting of a separation, of a relocation that separated us just to advance the other's career. And I remember when Tyler and I were finally at the same office, they went to him and they were wanting him to move to Vicksburg, Mississippi for a career advancement. And they were telling him to, that he should take advantage of that. And he was like, well, I don't want to leave here because Adrian's here or whatever. And they were like, she's really going to be like, this is going to slow down your career. Like this relationship is going to interfere if you, like, they were literally telling him to, like, that I was going to jeopardize his growth and he should really think about, leaving and not really taking me into consideration. But
well, obviously
that we both quit.
Yeah, obviously that backfired on them.
I always joke with him all the time. I'm like, just think you could be like in Vicksburg, Mississippi right now.
Leading a paper mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dreams do come true for some people. Yep.
Wild.
Well, that was fun today.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can drag up any more stories from my past. I think I trauma blocked a lot of them out.
I know,
but
it's like I can't think of them until you remind me of something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I remember when that happened. You
Yeah.
know?
But I'm sure I
Very
have
similar.
more. So,
Same.
all right. Well, that
That's
was
a
it.
wrap.
That
That's
was
it.
it. Please submit your stories at dearworkwives.com.
I
Thank
have
you.
so many people that are like, here's this, I have this story. Oh my God, this happened to me. And then they don't submit them. So
Submit it.
go and submit it or message it to us on Instagram. We'll submit it for you, please.
Yeah.
We would love to hear your story on
Yes.
dearworkwives.com. Because
Yeah.
I know you're out there.
I know you are.
And we'll see you next Tuesday.
We'll see you next Tuesday.